We decided to camp by the lake that summer, a small, glassy stretch of water tucked deep into the woods of northern Michigan. You couldn't even find it on most maps. It was just a blue smudge surrounded by thick forest, barely touched by civilization. My friend Zach had heard about it from a guy at work who claimed it was the most peaceful place he'd ever been. That should have been the first red flag. There were 4 of us, me, Zach, Evan, and Lucas, all in our early 20s, just out of college, looking to get away from city noise and real life. We brought a couple of tents, some fishing gear, and enough beer to knock out a horse. The plan was to stay 3 nights, just us and nature. No phones, no signal, nothing but trees and water. Sounded perfect. The first day was exactly what we needed. We set up camp right by the shore, cooked burgers on a fire pit, and watched the sun melt into the lake like a burning coin. The forest was eerily quiet, but we didn't think much of it. No bugs, no birds, just stillness. The kind that makes your ears ring. That night, Zach woke us up around 2 a.m. He swore he heard something moving outside the tents. Said it sounded like footsteps, heavy ones, but too slow to be human. Evan told him he was dreaming, but I could tell Zach was really shaken. His hands were trembling, and he kept glancing into the dark like something was still out there. The next morning, we found strange marks in the dirt near the tents. Not footprints exactly, more like wide, shallow grooves, as if something had been dragged along the ground. Lucas said it was probably an animal, maybe a bear, but there were no claw prints. Just those long, sweeping marks in random patterns, like someone, or something, was crawling in circles. We tried to laugh it off and went fishing that afternoon, but none of us could relax. The woods felt wrong. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like the trees were watching us. Even the air smelled off, too clean, almost sterile. No pine, no dirt, just this cold nothingness. That evening, just before dusk, we noticed something out on the lake. A shape. It looked like a person, standing completely still in the water, way out in the middle. But the water was deep, and no one could stand there. We stared for a long time, but the shape didn't move. It didn't sink. It didn't swim. It just stood there, almost like it was waiting. Then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, it vanished. We didn't sleep that night, and that was only the second day. By the third day, the lake wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt like it was holding its breath, still heavy, like the world had paused and forgotten to start again. None of us spoke much that morning. Zach was pale and jumpy. He swore he saw something watching us from the tree line while he was peeing behind the tent. Said it had no face, just a shape standing between the trees. Evan was more skeptical, but he wasn't laughing anymore either. Not after last night. Lucas tried to lighten the mood, but even he kept glancing over his shoulder every few minutes. It wasn't just nerves. There was something real pressing down on us, like the forest didn't want us there anymore. We decided to leave early, pack up and hike back before sunset. But when we checked our compass, the needle spun slowly in place, like it didn't know which way was north anymore. We tried using the sun, but the light seemed dimmer than it should have been. Even at noon, shadows stretched too long, and the air had turned icy despite the summer heat. Then, we found the second campsite. It was maybe a 20-minute walk from ours, hidden behind a thick wall of trees. Tents collapsed and torn open. Food wrappers, sleeping bags, everything scattered and rotting. But no people. Just an abandoned scene, like someone had left in a hurry, or never left at all. Zach found a notebook near one of the fire pits. Water damaged, but some pages were still readable. The writing started normal. Lists of supplies, notes about the lake, how calm and silent it was. But then the tone shifted. The last few pages were written in messy, frantic handwriting. The man in the water won't stop watching. He comes closer every night. Don't sleep. Don't turn your back. After that, none of us wanted to stay another minute. We grabbed what we could and headed back the way we came. But it felt different now. Trees looked the same, over and over. The trail markers we'd scratched into bark were gone. The deeper we walked, the more it felt like the woods were rearranging themselves, keeping us trapped. Zach started muttering to himself, kept saying he could hear breathing right behind him, even when no one was there. He got so panicked he refused to stop moving, even when we needed a break. His face was covered in sweat, eyes darting like he was watching something none of us could see. By nightfall, we had no idea where we were. And then the whispering started, soft, slow, and just beneath the wind, calling our names. One by one, we finally collapsed in a small clearing, too exhausted to keep moving. The whispering hadn't stopped. It just grew quieter, more personal. It wasn't just noise anymore. It was voices. They were using our names, mimicking them in each other's voices. Lucas. But it sounded like me saying it. We circled up, backs to each other, flashlights trembling in our hands. Zach was gone. He'd wandered off hours ago in a panic and refused to come back. We tried searching, but the wood swallowed sound, swallowed light, swallowed him. That's when we saw it again, out near the tree line. The shape from the lake. Still and tall, just watching. No face. No features. Just presence. The trees behind it bent inward, like gravity was pulling toward it. And it was closer this time. Lucas took off running. I don't blame him. I wanted to run too, but Evan and I froze. We couldn't even scream. It started moving, gliding. No footsteps, no sound. Stepped out of the trees. Identical shapes. No eyes. No mouths. But they whispered, not from their bodies, but from inside our heads. I felt them rooting around in my mind, yanking out memories like pages from a book. They showed me Zach, standing knee-deep in the lake, his eyes wide open, mouth moving but silent. Then the water swallowed him. I could feel it. The weight, the cold, the pressure, like it was happening to me. I couldn't tell if it was a vision or something real. Evan screamed next to me, clawing at his ears. Blood dripped down his face. And then I blacked out. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The clearing was empty. Evan was gone. Lucas never came back. Only my backpack remained, and the notebook Zach had found. The last line, one I hadn't noticed before, was underlined 3 times. No one leaves unless something stays behind. I've never spoken about it until now. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still hear my name, being whispered from the middle of a quiet, still lake. I never told the police everything, just that we got lost, that the others wandered off, and I couldn't find them. They searched for a few days, found our torn-up campsite, pieces of our gear scattered in a wide circle, almost like a ritual. No footprints, no signs of struggle, no Zach, no Evan, no Lucas. They said maybe animals got them, maybe exposure, maybe they fell and hit their heads. No one wanted to ask more questions, but I knew better. For weeks after I got home, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure standing in the trees. I stopped going near water. Even the sound of rain tapping against the window would send my heart racing. I started keeping every light on at night, terrified of silence, terrified of what I'd hear if it got too quiet. My friends' families tried reaching out. I couldn't face them. What would I say? That something in those woods took their sons? That I left them behind? Eventually, people stopped asking, but I haven't stopped hearing it. Sometimes, late at night, I hear footsteps on the floorboards of my apartment. Wet footprints, like someone walked in from the rain. I live on the 5th floor, and every so often, just before sleep drags me under, I'll hear my name whispered in a voice that sounds like Zach's. And I swear, for just a second, I feel like I'm back in those woods. Still lost. Still being watched. Still not alone. It's been over a year since that trip. I moved cities. Changed jobs. Deleted every photo of that lake. I told myself I could outrun it, whatever it was. That maybe distance would make it fade. But the truth is, some places, they mark you. And once you've seen what's behind the curtain, you can't ever unsee it. Sometimes I wonder what really happened to the others. Did they die out there? Or are they still in those woods, trapped in some twisted echo of reality? I've read stories since then, online threads, whispered rumors, about people disappearing near that area, about a lake that doesn't show up on maps, a place that watches you back. Maybe we weren't the first. We definitely won't be the last. There are things in this world we're not meant to understand. Not ghosts or monsters, exactly. Something deeper, older, things that don't follow our rules, that don't need to. And curiosity, that's what gets you. We went looking for silence, escape, peace, But the woods gave us something else, a reflection of our worst fears, shaped into something that could reach out and touch us. I've thought about going back, not to find them. I know that's pointless, but to see if it was real, to prove to myself that I'm not crazy. But then, late at night, when the lights are off and the silence creeps in, I hear it again, a single whisper from somewhere behind me. Soft, familiar, and I know, deep down, it's waiting. That lake never let me go. It just let me leave, for now. We weren't even supposed to be camping there. It was private land, technically. But Jamie had a cousin who knew someone who said no one had used the cabin or the surrounding woods in years. We figured if we just pitched our tents a few hundred feet off the trail, no one would even know. Just a weekend escape in the mountains, 4 of us. Jamie, her boyfriend Daniel, our quiet friend Becca, and me. The area was remote. No cell signal, no nearby towns, not even a ranger station within walking distance. Just dense pine woods, steep hills, and silence so thick it made your ears buzz. We found a clearing around noon on Saturday and set up camp. There was something strange about the spot, though. No birds, no bugs, no wind, just complete stillness. Becca said it felt like we were being watched. She was always the sensitive one. We teased her, but I felt it too. Like the trees were holding their breath. That night, we sat around the fire telling stories, roasting marshmallows, and laughing. But the woods around us stayed quiet. Too quiet. At some point, I noticed Daniel had stopped talking. He was staring into the trees, eyes fixed, like he saw something the rest of us couldn't. When I asked what was wrong, he didn't answer. He just said quietly, "I think someone's out there." After Daniel said that, the whole mood shifted. We all turned toward the woods, expecting to see some animal, maybe a deer, or even a bear, but there was nothing. Just darkness between the trees, thick and endless. Jamie waved it off, said he was trying to scare us, but Daniel wouldn't drop it. He whispered that he'd seen something tall, standing far back between the trees. Said it didn't move, didn't blink, just stared, like it was waiting. That night, none of us really slept. I kept waking up to the sound of branches cracking, but every time I unzipped my tent to look, nothing was there. Just more trees. Still no bugs, no wind, nothing. By morning, Daniel was gone. His boots were still at the edge of the tent. His flashlight too. But no sign of him. No trail, no blood, no broken branches, just gone. We spent the whole day looking for him. We screamed until our voices cracked. We marked trees with ribbons, retraced our steps, called into the woods. But the forest was like a maze. Everything looked the same. Every direction felt wrong. Becca found something near a small stream about a mile from camp, a shirt, Daniel's, folded neatly on a rock, like someone had laid it there on purpose. Then she started acting strange. She kept muttering to herself, saying the trees were talking, said they were calling to her. Jamie grabbed her and shook her, yelling at her to stop, but Becca's eyes just glazed over. We dragged her back to camp, tied her hands with rope from one of the packs, not to hurt her, but to keep her from running off into the woods. That night, Becca started humming in her sleep, a slow, tuneless sound, like a lullaby played backward. I sat up and listened, frozen, as her voice changed, low and deep, like it didn't belong to her anymore. And then she whispered, "It's here." A second later, our fire snuffed out. We were swallowed in darkness, and something was moving just beyond the tree line. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. The darkness around us felt alive, like it wasn't just absence. It was something thick and real, pressing in from all sides. We couldn't see more than a foot in front of us. The fire hadn't just gone out, it was gone. No embers, no warmth, like it had never been there to begin with. Becca sat up slowly, her head tilted toward the trees, still tied at the wrists, but she didn't struggle. She smiled and said, "He's waiting." Jamie grabbed my arm. Her whole body was shaking. She whispered, "What is she talking about? Who's waiting?" Then we heard it. Not footsteps, something worse. A dragging sound, like weight being pulled across leaves and dirt. Slow, scraping. It circled us, just beyond the edge of our vision. Jamie fumbled for her flashlight, and clicked it on. For a split second, the beam caught something between the trees, tall, way too tall, with long arms hanging past its knees. Its skin looked pale, almost gray, stretched tight over a thin frame. No eyes, just a mouth, wide and fixed in a grin. Then the light died. Becca started laughing. Not her normal laugh. This was wrong. Low, broken, like someone trying to remember how to sound human. Jamie screamed. She bolted into the trees, flashlight bouncing in her hand, disappearing into the black. I tried to run too, but Becca grabbed my ankle and hissed, "He doesn't want you to leave." I kicked free, fell, scrambled into the woods in the opposite direction, branches slashing at my face. Behind me, I heard a low growl, wet and deep, and Becca's laughter fading into silence. And just for a second, before I lost my way, I saw Daniel, standing between two trees. I don't know how long I ran. Hours, maybe. The forest seemed endless, like it was folding in on itself. I couldn't tell if I was going in circles or deeper into something I was never meant to find. Eventually, I stumbled onto a dirt road. It didn't feel real at first, just a long, gray scar through the woods. I stood there shaking, half expecting it to vanish under my feet. A truck driver picked me up around sunrise. I must have looked half dead, mud-covered, bloody, eyes wide and hollow. He asked what happened. I tried to explain, but the words caught in my throat. "We got lost," was all I could manage. The search teams found nothing. No tents, no fire pit, no Becca, no Jamie, not even the shirt we'd found by the stream. Just untouched forest, as if we were never there at all. They called it a disappearance. Said my friends must have wandered off and gotten lost. Some thought I did something to them. Others figured I went crazy and made the whole thing up. But I know what I saw. Daniel, Becca, that thing with the mouth, and the feeling I had the whole time, that we were never really alone. Now, every time I walk past trees, I feel it again. Like something just behind the bark is listening, waiting. And when the wind is still and the forest goes quiet, I swear I hear Becca humming. It's been 8 months since that night. I don't camp anymore. I don't hike. I don't even go near wooded areas unless I absolutely have to. I moved to the city, surrounded myself with concrete and streetlights, things that feel solid, predictable, safe. But I'm not really safe. I know that now, because whatever was in that forest, it wasn't tied to the trees. It followed me back, not in a physical way, but in the edges of my mind, in the quietest parts of my day. I see Daniel's face in crowds sometimes, just for a second. Always that same blank stare, that same impossible smile, and the humming that never stopped. It started faint, barely noticeable, then louder, closer. Sometimes I wake up with it right in my ear, like Becca's kneeling next to my bed. I don't sleep much anymore. I tried therapy, medication, denial, but none of it holds. Because deep down, I know that place wasn't just cursed or haunted. It was something else. A trap, maybe. A mouth disguised as a forest. And we walked right in. People still go missing in that area. I read about them sometimes. Campers, hikers, all stories that end the same way, vanished without a trace. And I wonder, are they gone? Or just part of it now? That's what keeps me up at night. Because if it's still out there, then maybe it's not finished. Maybe it's waiting for me to come back. Or worse, maybe it's already here, right outside my window, listening. There's a stretch of forest up north that people don't talk about much anymore. Used to be popular back in the 90s, before a couple of campers disappeared and the trail got shut down. They called it Raven's Hollow. No official signs, just an overgrown path and a broken-down ranger station about 3 miles in. We were stupid enough to go there. It was supposed to be a dare, a weekend challenge. Me, my cousin Ravi, and our friend Tyler. 3 nights in Raven's Hollow, no phones, no GPS, just a paper map and our gear. We planned it all out. Tents, food, firewood, even an old disposable camera for fun. The first night went fine. Quiet. Too quiet, actually. No owls. No bugs. Just the sound of our own breathing. But we chalked it up to nerves. We set up camp near what looked like an old fire ring, probably used by someone decades ago. The stones were blackened, half buried under dirt and leaves. Ravi joked that we were probably camping on someone's grave. Tyler laughed. I didn't. That night, just before we fell asleep, we heard a sound in the distance, like a bell. Faint metallic, swaying back and forth. But there was no wind. I remember Tyler saying, "That's weird," before zipping up his tent. None of us said it, but we all knew. There shouldn't be any bells in the middle of the woods. The bell rang again the next night, this time closer. Same soft, metallic clanging, like an old iron bell swinging slowly. But when we stepped out of our tents, flashlights scanning the trees, there was nothing, just cold air and fog, so thick it felt like it had weight. We told ourselves it had to be wind hitting something metal, maybe an old fence or cabin somewhere nearby. But we'd explored the area earlier that day. There was nothing for miles. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard footsteps outside the tent. Soft, slow, circling. I held my breath and stayed completely still, praying it was one of the guys. But I could hear them both. Ravi breathing heavily in the tent beside mine, and Tyler snoring across from us. Whatever was walking out there, it wasn't us. The next morning, Ravi found something strange near the fire pit. A feather, but not a normal one. It was jet black, almost oily looking, and nearly a foot long. At the base, it was wrapped in red string, tight, like someone had tied it intentionally. We all stared at it. None of us spoke for a long time. Then we noticed the map was missing. The paper one. It had been inside Tyler's bag, zipped and tucked under his jacket. He swore he hadn't moved it. Neither had we. "Someone's messing with us," Ravi said, but his voice didn't sound sure. We spent the afternoon hiking out in the direction we thought led back to the road, but the woods looked different now, like the trees had shifted slightly, leaning in, branches twisted in unnatural angles. After 3 hours, we ended up back at our own camp. We hadn't turned around. We just ended up back there. That night, we built a fire bigger. We sat with our backs to each other. Every branch crack, every crunch of leaves made us flinch. Then, around 2 a.m., the bell rang again. Louder, closer, right on the edge of the trees. And just past the firelight, we saw it. A figure, still and tall, wearing what looked like a long coat made of feathers. A bell tied to its neck, swinging gently without wind. It didn't move. It just watched. We didn't move. Couldn't. The figure stood just beyond the fire's reach, taller than any man, face hidden beneath what looked like a long, curved beak. Its coat of feathers shimmered, black and wet-looking, almost breathing with the firelight. The bell around its neck swayed on its own, slow and steady. Tyler whispered, "Is that a mask?" But no one answered. Then it stepped forward. Just one step. The fire flickered violently, like the air around it had been pulled out. Ravi screamed and threw a rock, just an instinct, but it never made contact. It should have hit the thing's chest, but it disappeared mid-air. Like the space around it was wrong, warped. The figure stepped again. Closer. We could hear its breathing now, slow and ragged, like lungs that hadn't worked in years. The bell let out another dull clang, this time so loud it rattled our teeth. Tyler bolted. He didn't say anything, just turned and ran straight into the woods. We screamed for him, but his footsteps vanished almost instantly, swallowed by the trees. Ravi grabbed my arm, whispering, "Don't run. It wants that." I looked back. The figure was gone. No sound, no wind, just silence, like the forest had died. Then something moved behind us. Branches snapped. Leaves crunched. Not fast, patiently. Whatever it wasn't chasing Tyler. It was circling us now. And then we heard Tyler scream. Not in pain. In terror. One long, horrible sound, then nothing. Just the bell swaying in the dark. Getting closer. We didn't sleep the rest of that night. Just sat by the dying fire, backs to each other, knives in hand. Not that it would have helped. We never saw Tyler again. At dawn, we packed what we could and started walking. No food, no map, just whatever we could carry. We didn't speak. The woods were completely silent. No birds, no wind. Not even our own footsteps made much sound anymore. Like the forest didn't want to let us go. Ravi kept glancing behind us, flinching at nothing. I noticed blood on his arm. 3 thin scratches, deep and perfectly spaced. He said he didn't remember getting them. A few hours in, we came across a clearing we hadn't seen before. In the center was Tyler's backpack, propped up neatly, untouched. And beside it, a small pile of red string and feathers, carefully arranged like an offering. Ravi broke. He dropped his bag, started yelling, cursing at the trees, at whatever was watching us. I begged him to stop, but it was too late. The bell rang. Low, heavy, behind us. I turned and Ravi was gone. No scream, no struggle, just gone. I stood there frozen for minutes, maybe hours. Eventually I walked. I don't know how long it took, but I found a road, collapsed on it, woke up in a hospital. They asked me what happened. I told them we got lost. Nothing else. They wouldn't have believed the truth anyway. It's been 3 years. I've tried to move on. I've tried to pretend it was just the forest, disorientation, panic, bad luck, that maybe Ravi and Tyler really did just get lost. But I know that's not what happened. I still hear the bells sometimes, not in the woods, not outside, but in dreams, low and slow, echoing through dark trees that close in tighter each time. When I wake up, my room feels colder, like something passed through while I was asleep, that I haven't told anyone the full truth. Not the police, not Ravi's family, not even my own. Because how do you explain something like that? That the forest moved, that time bent, that something tall and old and feathered watched us like we were intruders or prey. I've done research since then, found stories, not many but enough. People who've gone missing in Raven's Hollow, campers who vanished without a trace, a few survivors years apart, with similar details, feathers, bells, silence. It's not a place you stumble into by accident. It chooses you, calls to you in small ways. A strange trail on a forgotten map, a dare, a whisper of curiosity. And once you go in, something follows you back. I don't go near the woods anymore. I don't even look at pictures of trees. But sometimes, just before dawn, I'll hear the faint sound of something swaying outside my window. A slow clink of metal, like a bell. And in that moment I know, it never stopped watching. It's just waiting.